Hey guys, thank you so very much for tuning in to today's comic book recap. I'm here with a new review for you, and we are recapping issue number 21 of Boom Studios' Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. As you guys know, I like to recap these issues. I'm doing a bit of a different format for this video, so just roll with me. Also comment on this video. Let me know what you think of this format for the recap. I'm kind of wanting to do a little something different in terms of the structure with recapping these Power Ranger comic books. So in the previous issue, in issue 20, Grace Sterling, she comes to the command center and she's talking to the Power Rangers. And in this issue, we kind of get that explanation of what it is that she's doing in the command center, and eventually we learn what it is that she wants from the Rangers. And obviously we know that she's the original Red Ranger, so she has some history with being a Power Ranger and with knowing Zordon and Alpha and whatnot. And so obviously if you read issue number 20, you know what went down. Stuff was crazy, and so now, however many years, I mean, obviously it's like several years later from 1969, but now we're caught up with Grace Sterling, and we're learning a little bit more about who she is in this particular issue, which I think is really cool. We learned that Grace Sterling created this, what would you call it, like secret society, looks very government official-like, and it's called Promethea. Grace Sterling has created a high-tech, innovative community with scientists and engineers making the world a better and safer place. So that's basically what Promethea is, and that's the organization that she's created. So when Grace meets with the Rangers at the command center, initially she wants to take them on the trip. So they teleport out from the command center to Promethea, which is Grace Sterling's kind of headquarters and base. So she takes them there, and what she wanted to show them, why she even showed up to the command center in the first place, is so she takes them to Promethea, and then she introduces them to this civilian that she has like captive. She's holding this civilian captive in like a containment center, and the guy seems fairly normal. He seems pretty regular. Until eventually he turns into this cat-like monster out of nowhere, and they start, like, there's even a segment in this comic where they like time it, like where they know when he's about to turn into the monster, and so we see that happen, and eventually, like, they do something. They have some device that's connected to the civilian, and they end up trying to put the monster down, but that ends up going south. So, but before I go forward with that, initially, Grace Sterling wanted to show them this civilian because, not just to show Promethea and, just another creature, but this obviously has to do with what Finster, was creating. So, what was it, issue, gosh, I can't even remember what the hell the issue was, but it was an issue where, Finster had his own island, and, he was creating, it's like a bunch of people that would just turn into like putties and monsters. And so now they're like all over the world. And so Grace Sterling wanted to show the Rangers and like really allow them to see an example of what's happening globally, not just in Angel Grove and not just in specific small places, but it's kind of a global issue now where these regular civilians who look like normal people are just turning into monsters, at any given time and in any place. So basically that's why she brought them to Prometheus, to show them like, hey, this is the problem we have at hand. Zordon is nowhere to be found right now, and initially they need to work together in order to stop what's happening, because the Rangers, they can teleport instantly to the scene and to where, the issues are happening, to stop these issues, when the monsters, come about. So initially that's why Grace Sterling brought the Rangers to Prometheus, to kind of show them, hey, this is exactly what we're dealing with, and we need to work together in order to stop this shit from going down. So they tried to put the cat monster down, but that went south. It didn't work, and eventually that monster civilian cat thing breaks out of the containment and he starts terrorizing, the area of Promethea. So for a little while, you see, obviously, you get some stuff with the Rangers as they're fighting this monster, trying to stop this monster and contain it by like chopping off a bunch of the heads. It's pretty graphic, but it's awesome. So they're fighting this cat monster, and the name is Mr. Miyagi. Now, I've commented on this before, but I love even in the more serious elements of this comic. You also have those cheesy moments of Power Rangers that they get snuck in there, in little segments, and that's classic for like even the original TV show, where a lot of those monsters just had those cheesy names that were very fitting for the character or villain, and this is one of them. And I've said that multiple times for even some of the other issues, but I thought that was funny. Mr. Miyagi, as he's a like 10-headed cat monster. So the Rangers, they continue fighting them off. They seem to be struggling somewhat, and I wouldn't even say necessarily struggling, but they're fighting this monster off. And then to end it quickly, so Grace Sterling, she pops into the fight with her own Zord. So it's like, it's not a Megazord. She calls it a Mecha Zord. So she steps in, and with her own Zord, she takes the monster down. Boom, done deal. And the monster wasn't giant, by the way. It's just at regular size, but she steps in and, takes him out with her own Zord. Now, I wanted to pause there for a second, because she did what every Power Ranger fan was thinking. We've all thought it multiple times. And I even like teased at this in one of like, if you guys have seen my Imaginext Power Ranger video, how Imaginext Power Ranger saved the day, I kind of made a joke about this in that video. But we've all thought about it before as being Power Ranger fans. Like, why not just bring out the Megazord to stop some of these monsters ahead of time? Because if you think about it, I mean, what she did was smart. They end up talking about it, and they didn't agree with her tactics, but it was efficient. It got the job done quicker, where she just brought out her own Zord, smashed the monster down, done deal. We're not gonna play fight around. We're not gonna, do flips and kicks. Bring in the Zord, done deal. The monster is gone. We don't have to worry about a bunch of putties. Just bring out the foot of the Megazord and smash him, done deal. So I thought it was funny because I was like, wow, she did what every Power Ranger fan has thought of before. Like, why haven't the Power Rangers done that before? Now, it's funny because they end up talking about this later where, even Jason is like, morally, that's something that they try to stay away from without they don't want to escalate the fight or a situation unless they have to, and that's the reason why the Power Rangers don't bring out the Zords unless they need to, unless the monster goes giant or whatever. And so I thought that was good that they addressed that, but I also thought it was funny too, because it's like, man, everybody has kind of thought about that before, especially if you've been a fan of the show for many years. So I thought that was a unique thing. And so they get into the reason why Grace Sterling created her own Zord in the first place. So if you have read a lot of these issues previously, it was when, Tommy and Billy were in that other dimension where they met Lord Draken. In that portion, of the series, the Rangers, their Zords were hijacked and held captive by Rita Repulsa. So they didn't have access to their Zords. So in that time when that happened, Grace Sterling, she mentions in this comic, that's the reason why her team, her organization Promethea, created their own Mecha Zord in case something like that ever happened again, where the Earth was somewhat defenseless. So Promethea created their own Zord, their Mecha Zord, so to speak, in case a situation like that ever arises again, where the Rangers didn't have their Zords and, the world is threatened by giant, big-ass monsters. So that's the reason why they created their own Mecha Zord, is to have that kind of backup in case things go south with the, Ranger Zords. Which, I mean, yeah, it's fair. If you live in a world like that where big monsters and giants are terrorizing, the world, then you need to have a backup plan if you don't have the appropriate defense mechanism. So I thought that was cool, and I thought that was a awesome element that was added into this comic. Another thing that we learn with Promethea, so Grace Sterling kind of explains a little bit more of not just the reason why she brought them to Promethea to meet that civilian that turned to the monster, but she also tells the Rangers that Promethea, her organization, they can track the monsters before they turn. So they can track them within like a few minutes or whatever. I guess I might be saying that wrong, but I know initially they can track each creature before they turn fully into a monster. So with that, it gets into that moment where Grace Sterling is, and the Rangers are like, so what? Do you want us to be your muscle? Do you want us to go out and do the dirty work and stop these monsters? And Grace is like, I want us to work together. I want us to be a team, because they can teleport quickly anywhere and stop the threat before it becomes more detrimental. So that's kind of the reason why she brought them there. And she's like, hey, we need to work together. Zordon he's missing. He's MIA. So we need to work together to stop this global disaster before it gets any worse. And before they can even say yes or no, Alpha contacts Zach, and he's like, Rangers, it's an emergency. We have a breakthrough. And at the end of this comic, Zordon has returned. We see that Zordon is back. And so that's going to be huge for a couple reasons. Zordon's back, so maybe, some order is going to be restored. But Zordon is also going to have a lot of explaining to do as to what happened with the 1969 Power Rangers. And early in this comic, you even see, the Rangers, they're a little bit confused, where they're like, well, how come Zordon didn't tell us about this? Is it that he didn't want us to know about it? Was he hiding it from us? And even Alpha, mentions, it's something that Zordon wanted to tell them eventually when the time was right. So that time is here. So that's going to be interesting to see how, they play into that within these next few issues, and kind of, how Zordon explains that. And I thought it was cool, too, to kind of see that vulnerability with, this majestic alien. Even as powerful as Zordon is, yeah, he's capable of making mistakes. And we definitely, seen that in issue number 20. So I'm excited to see, how they kind of play into that, and how he explains, his decision making to the Rangers. Also, another thing I mentioned in other issues before, Saba is introduced differently into this, particular series. And so it makes me wonder exactly how we're going to get the White Ranger, how Tommy is going to become the White Ranger. I know for, issue number 24, we see some different cover variants. We all know that Lord Draken is coming back. We've all heard some stuff about the Power Rangers war that's going to be happening. And then on specific covers, it could just be a cover, could just be, the art. It might not mean anything. But I've seen something with the White Ranger, and then also seen one with Lord Draken, kind of being interrogated or whatnot. So I'm curious, just, at the end of this comic, you see Zordon, Alpha, and Saba. Saba's obviously, come from the other dimension and traveled to the Rangers' world. So I'm just curious to see exactly how the White Ranger is going to be introduced into this series. I know it's going to be great, so I'm excited to see what they do. But it obviously is definitely a little bit different than what it was introduced, in the TV show. So it's going to be, I think it's refreshing to kind of have that segment to look forward to and to see what they do with it. So those are the main bullet points, and I'm reading off of stuff. So if you see me looking down, that's the reason why. Those are my bullet points, things that stuck out to me in this comic. Yeah, that's what it is, guys. I enjoyed the issue. As you guys know, I say this every issue, and I mean it. I love what Boom Studios is doing with the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger comics. If you have not read these, man, definitely take the time to subscribe to Boom Studios. I read mine through Comixology. So if you're a person who likes to pick up the paper cover, go to a local comic book shop and make sure you go support and get these comics, because they are worth the read. And I love recapping these. Otherwise, if they weren't worth a read, I would not be recapping these guys. They are fantastic, so make sure you do that. Also, if you are new to my YouTube channel, you know what you got to do. Hit that subscribe button so you can support your boy, because I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I appreciate you guys, because you guys are the ones that make this happen, and I appreciate the love so very much. So yeah, make sure you go read these comics, guys. Make sure you click that subscribe button on my channel so you can get all the updated stuff that I do, and all the crazy jazz and recaps and cosplay things that I do on my channel. So yeah, be sure to subscribe, like, and share this video. And like I said, comment on this video. Let me know what you thought about this recap. Let me know what you thought about this particular issue, if you guys have read it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for today. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and until next time, wham, bam, boom.